Hey everyone, I'm Aim Showtime, aka Zero Shift on Gilgamesh. In this video, I'll show you how to play Paladin in high-end content patch 6.4. Paladin received the rework in patch 6.3, making his playstyle completely different. The rework enables Paladin to output more damage under its burst window. However, Paladin still remains king on the defensive side with his party utility. We'll go over your basic actions, the opener and rotation, and the Paladin's defensive kit. Before we begin, I just want to give a shout out to the Paladin mentors and the Balance Discord that helped and peer reviewed this guide, so you know this will be a good one. All of them are Paladin extraordinaires, so if you need more tips, be sure to join the Discord. Link in the description below. So to not waste any more time, let's get started. As always, we'll start with your basic actions. Paladin's standard combo is as follows. Fast Blade, Riot Blade, and Royal Authority. Riot Blade restores 1000 MP. Royal Authority grants you 3 stacks of Sword Oath and also grants you a Divine Might buff. Both the Sword Oath stacks and the Divine Might buff will last 30 seconds. We'll go over what these two buffs do here shortly. Paladin's AoE combo is as follows. Total Eclipse and Prominence. Prominence restores 500 MP. It also grants the Divine Might buff for 30 seconds. This combo is a gain on 3 or more targets. Atonements. Atonement is a 400 potency GCD, same as Royal Authority, and can only be used by spending Sword Oath stacks. As of patch 6.4, Atonements no longer break combo, allowing you to pull them for burst windows. Be sure to use all your stacks before your next Royal Authority GCD, as you cannot hold more than 3 stacks of Sword Oath. Divine Might. Divine Might is a non-stacking proc buff that allows you to use your next Holy Spirit or Holy Circle with no cast time, and also buffs its potencies. Be sure to use this before hitting your next Royal Authority GCD or Prominence GCD, or else it is wasted damage. FFXIV is a 300 potency hit with a 1 minute cooldown that should only be used while under your fight or flight burst window. Upon use, you are granted 4 stacks of FFXIV that enable instant casts and increased potencies for your spells. This also provides the buff Confiteor Ready, which allows you to use Confiteor and begin your blade combo. All 4 stacks of FFXIV should be used only for your blade combo. Your blade combo is as follows. Confiteor, Blade of Faith, Blade of Truth, and Blade of Valor. All are ranged spells and all are AoE hits. Each action will consume 1 stack of FFXIV. Each action also costs 1000 MP to use. You also get a flat 400 potency heal per hit. None of these actions interrupt your standard combo, and blade combos should only be performed while under fight or flight. Goring Blade. Goring Blade is a standalone 700 potency GCD that has a 1 minute cooldown and should only be used while under fight or flight. OGCDs. Expatian is an AoE hit that deals a 450 potency hit to the primary target, reduced damage to the rest. It also restores 500 MP. Be sure to use this on cooldown. Circle of Scorn is an AoE attack that also places a dot on all enemies it hits. Be sure to use this on cooldown. Intervene is your gap closer. You have 2 charges of it. Don't just sit on 2 charges, sometimes referred to as overcapping. Try to save both charges under burst, unless using it gains you uptime. By gaining uptime, I mean holding an intervene if you know there will be some sort of disengage or knockback that will make you lose a GCD if you can't immediately gap close. Spells. Holy Spirit is a 350 potency spell with a 1.5 second cast time and costs 1000 MP. While under Divine Might, the potency becomes 450 and becomes an instant cast. It also grants a 400 potency self-heal. This spell does not break your combo. You should only hard cast a Holy Spirit pre-pull or when you are out of melee range from the boss. Do not spend FFXIV stacks on Holy Spirit. Holy Circle is your AoE spell that deals 100 potency hits to all targets in range, with a 1.5 cast time and 1000 MP cost. Under Divine Might, potency is increased to 200 and becomes an instant cast. It also delivers a single 400 potency heal. Use Holy Circle over Holy Spirit on 3 or more targets. Fight or Flight. Fight or Flight is your damage buff that increases all your damage by 25% for 20 seconds. While under this buff, you will need to use 8 GCDs. Goring Blade and your Blade combo are mandatory under this buff, as they are your hardest hitting actions. 3 filler GCDs will complete the buff window, but we will go over that in more detail in the rotation section of this guide. 1 use of Expatian, Circle of Scorn, and both intervenes should also be used while under this buff. And that covers all your basic actions. Nothing was left out. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now let's move on to the opener. The opener for Paladin is relatively simple and versatile, as the same opener can be performed regardless if you're main tanking or off tanking. The only difference being, if you are main tank, your stance is on, and if you are off tank, your stance is off. Following graphic is courtesy of the Balance Discord. So you're going to start with a hard cast Holy Spirit 2 seconds pre-pull. Then run up to the boss. Sprint helps here for the slide cast and if the boss is a little far away. Then begin with Fast Blade and then Potion. After Royal Authority, pop Fight or Flight, and then Requiescat. Then Goring Blade with Expatian and Circle of Scorn. Then finally, begin your Blade combo. Dump your intervenes as you go. Your last 3 filler GCDs should be your Divine Might Holy Spirit and 2 Atonements. Use your last atonement here because it is still under potion. And that concludes the opener for Paladin. Very simple and straightforward. This standard opener plays into raid buffs and can be used for pretty much any fight. Now let's move on to the rotation. Paladin rotation consists of 2 phases, filler phase and your fight or flight phase, or burst phase. The filler phase is basically just doing your Royal Authority combo while following some rules until your fight or flight comes back. When performing your Royal Authority combo, instead of immediately spending your Sword Oath stacks and Divine Might buff, begin another Royal Authority combo. But spend those atonements and Divine Might before hitting Royal Authority again. This enables you to pull stronger GCDs for your burst window. Doing your filler rotation this way solves the issue of trying to recognize when to hold atonements or Divine Might Holy Spirits for fight or flight by default. So it's good to make this a habit. Be sure to use Expatian, Circle of Scorn on cooldown. You will get 1 use of each outside of your burst window. If you fail to use them on cooldown, you will eventually drift them and lose usages of them during your burst phase. Be sure to keep both charges of your intervene unless you need to use it to keep uptime. Otherwise, save them for fight or flight. Burst phase. Your burst window begins when fight or flight comes off cooldown, so be sure to use this immediately without drifting it. Fight or flight should be the first weave, followed by Requiescat, since the damage from Requiescat will be buffed by fight or flight. So it is preferred you keep those 2 in line with each other, just like in the opener. However, sometimes fight timings, ping, or even skill speed may make this difficult. If you cannot keep the 2 together, just make sure Requiescat comes after fight or flight. Regardless of where you're at in your rotation, fight or flight must be activated. Once activated, your burst should contain Goring Blade, full Blade combo, and 3 filler GCDs. This can be done in no particular order, but using Goring Blade and Blade combo first is done for possible usage gains in a fight. Your 3 filler GCDs should be prioritized with Divine Might Holy Spirit as it does the most damage outside of Goring Blade and Blade combo, then empty whatever atonement stacks you have left. If you generate a Divine Might Holy Spirit and more atonements by using Royal Authority, and you also have time for more GCDs under fight or flight, prioritize using the Divine Might Holy Spirit. If you perform your filler phase correctly, your 3 filler GCDs in fight or flight should never be Fast Blade or Riot Blade. Finally, make sure you're using your OGCDs, Expatian, Circle of Scorn, and both charges of Intervene in your burst. This marks the end of the offensive portion of Paladin. Gone are the days of spreadsheet Paladin. Follow these steps and you'll be one heavy hitter. Now on to the defensive portion of Paladin. Sentinel is your 30% mitigation tool that lasts 15 seconds. Rampart is your standard tank ult cooldown that mitigates damage for 20% for 20 seconds. Bulwark blocks all incoming attacks for 10 seconds. Blocks are 20% damage mitigation. Hollow Ground is your invulnerability that completely negates damage for 10 seconds. The only literal downside to this ability is its long cooldown of 7 minutes. Clemency is a spell that costs 2000 MP and casts a 1000 potency heal to you or onto a party member. If used on a party member, you will also be healed for 50% of what you healed the target. Clemency is rarely used and doesn't break your combo. Clemency is a strong tool for raid progression and niche situations in an effort to save runs. Reprisal is a debuff you place onto the boss that reduces their damage to the party by 10% for 10 seconds. Reprisal can be overridden by the other tank, so be sure to coordinate where you put your reprisals with your co-tank. Reprisals are helpful for mitigating raid-wide AoEs from the boss because of its 10-second duration and 1-minute cooldown. If there are no upcoming AoEs, you may also use this for tank busters, or if the other tank can cover the next AoE with their own reprisal. Divine Veil places a raid-wide shield onto you and your party members for 10% of your max HP. Don't underestimate the strength of this shield because 10% of a tank's max HP is no joke. This shield can get buffed if your max HP is increased by skills like Scholar's Protraction ability. Upon use, it also heals everyone in its range with a flat 400 potency heal. The shield lasts for a whopping 30 seconds, making it easy to preemptively pop this ability before upcoming enemy raid-wides. Passage of Arms is a channeled ability that lasts up to 18 seconds and forms wings behind your character. Any party member in those wings will have a 15% damage reduction and will guarantee a 100% block rate for you. Channeled ability means you will be unable to move or perform actions while in use. Any movement or action will end Passage of Arms. However, Passage of Arms has a lingering effect on the party for about 5 seconds, so you can still flash it as a weave between GCDs on the party, so they still receive 15% damage reduction and go right back to hitting the boss. Oath Gauge. The Oath Gauge enables the use of several defensive actions for Paladin. Your Oath Gauge increases by 5 for each auto attack on the boss, so be sure to be in melee range if you are trying to build more gauge. Holy Sheltron mitigates damage to yourself by 15% plus an additional 15% for the first 4 seconds. The duration of Holy Sheltron lasts 8 seconds and costs 50 oath gauge to use. Holy Sheltron also grants you a regen for 12 seconds. Intervention mitigates damage to a party member by 10% plus an additional 10% for the first 4 seconds. If you have either Rampart or Sentinel active on yourself before giving intervention to a party member, the base damage reduction is increased to 20%. Because of this, intervention is an amazing tool to use for double tank busters or an amazing cooldown to give to the main tank when they are taking a solo buster. Intervention also places a 12-second regen on the target and also costs 50 oath gauge to use. Cover tethers a party member to you for 12 seconds, and you must be within 10 yalms of that party member for the tether to remain active. Cover redirects most damage, debuffs, and knockbacks on the covered target onto you instead. Cover will use your own buffs to calculate the damage instead of the target. This makes Cover a very niche cooldown and very situational in efforts to save runs. Hologround is ignored when calculating damage for the targeted party member. It will only calculate the damage for yourself. So, if you are trying to prevent a death, use other cooldowns other than your invulnerability to do so. Props to Udra for this flowchart displaying how damage calculation works with Cover. Cover is a 2-minute cooldown and costs 50 oath gauge to use. Pairing cooldowns. Pairing cooldowns for tank busters allows you to safely mitigate almost any buster without over mitigating or under mitigating. For example, if you use too many cooldowns for a single buster, you may be left with no cooldowns to mitigate the next buster. If you don't use enough cooldowns, you will die to the buster. Pairing these cooldowns and cycling between them is an extremely helpful way to mitigate, especially if you do not have the fight mapped out. For the first set, I like to use Sentinel with Holy Sheltron. For the second set, I like to use Rampart, Bulwark, and Holy Sheltron. The strength of Paladin. It has been no secret that Paladin has an extremely good defensive kit, making it almost a top pick for rate progression. Paladin provides strong party mitigation because it is the only tank to have more than one party cooldown, and strong targeted mitigation tools for co-tanks or party members with buffed interventions. Cover and Clemency are very situational, but can be used in dire situations to save runs in a way no other tank can. For example, using Cover to protect party members from lethal damage, or keeping a healer alive to heal a V3 the party, or using Clemency at any point to prevent deaths in order to further prog runs. Paladin in previous expansions has always been known as the ideal off tank, but Paladin is now an incredibly strong main tank. This is due to the passive healing you receive from your Blade combo, which is 4 GCDs, your Divine Might Holy Spirits, and the strength of Holy Sheltron. Holy Sheltron has a short cooldown of 5 seconds, making it easy to reapply onto yourself with proper oath gauge management. Holy Sheltron not only provides strong mitigation, but also provides the regen. With the amount of possible self-mitigation and self-healing alone, Paladin becomes a strong main tank even for novice players. And this concludes my patch 6.4 Paladin guide. Thank you everyone for the constant support, even during my hiatus. Paladin was the first tank guide I released, and man, we have come a long way. I have no one else to thank but my supporters. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps me out. Also watch me live on my Twitch channel at AM Showtime. And of course, shout out to Udra, Nick, Ash, and Siliqui for their insight and wonderful feedback. I can't express how grateful I am for them to take the time and review this guide so that aspiring Paladin players can have the best product. Remember, you can find them in the Balance Discord, and they are always helping other players. But that's it for now. Thank you everyone, and happy raiding. Peace.